Sir, I need to rejoin the wolf pack.
I knew you'd call,
But I didn't expect it to be this soon.
In all his years of training, one thing had been drilled into him above everything else. Nothing is a coincidence.
Seth went on patrol as if nothing had happened, but Ethan Vance and the other officers were freaking out. The last thing they wanted to do was patrol. When they got back to the station and saw the holding cell packed with the city's golden boys, they froze. Seth had just taken the cell keys and walked out. "Let us out of here. My patience is running thin," Shane sneered, his cold gaze fixed on Ethan and the others. Ethan was at a loss. A colleague started to dial their captain, but Ethan stopped him. "What are you doing?" "We played dumb," Ethan said flatly. His colleague stared at him, wide-eyed. "Are you crazy? Look how many of them are in there." "So what?" Ethan shot back. "Seth just did what I've wanted to do for years." The other three officers hesitated for a beat, then exchanged a look and nodded. "Ethan, this isn't like you," one of them said, baffled by his sudden backbone. Ethan actually smiled. "This city is thriving, and their family's businesses built it. I get it. They deserve a certain amount of respect, but that doesn't give them a free pass to treat us like dirt. Let's just see how this plays out. It's about time these young princes learned that cops have pride, too." The other three gritted their teeth and nodded, deciding to back his play. You can't keep something like that quiet for long. The next day, the precinct captain's phone was blowing up. He turned it on first thing in the morning to find his call log had exploded with messages from the families of a dozen different heirs. He rushed to the station and found all of their faces pressed against the bars of the holding cell. "What the happened?" the captain demanded of the officer on duty. "Captain Seth Kramer arrested them last night. Here's the report." The officer looked a little shell-shocked himself. He'd just started his shift and was still trying to wrap his head around it, so all he could do was hand over Seth's paperwork. The captain glanced at it. The report cited insulting and assaulting an officer, but a night in the drunk tank was more than enough punishment for these kids. "Open the door. Let them go." The officer on duty shifted awkwardly. "Sir, Seth took the keys." The captain was speechless. He stared at the group of heirs sleeping like logs on the floor and benches, then scowled. "Get him on the phone. I want him down here now to open this door." Meanwhile, Seth was dead to the world, snoring away at home after his shift. When the incessant ringing finally dragged him from sleep, he groaned, rolled out of bed, and checked the time. It was just past noon. After a quick shower and throwing on some clothes, he walked out of his room just as a flight attendant with a serious case of bedhead emerged from another. She was wearing a loose robe, one shoulder peeking out. Her eyes widened in surprise when she saw Seth, still foggy with sleep and clearly forgetting for a second that she wasn't living alone anymore. Before she could speak, the front door opened and Ava walked in, having come back to make lunch. In that instant, all three of them froze, their eyes locked. After a 3-second standoff, both women blurted out in unison, "Don't get the wrong idea, I have nothing to do with him." They both paused, then spoke in unison again. "You must be his girlfriend?" After the words were out, both women just stared, dumbfounded. "What was I thinking?" Ava thought. "How could a guy like Seth ever land a girlfriend?" But then her eyes landed on the gorgeous woman in front of her, and the way her robe was hanging open. Ava's face soured, assuming she was a lady of the night Seth had brought home. The flight attendant felt the judgment immediately, and bristled. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Ava ignored her, instead shooting a disgusted look at Seth. "No wonder you're single," the flight attendant was furious. "What's that supposed to mean? Are you suggesting I'm in the same line of work as you?" Ava shot back, her voice dripping with attitude. "The sun's up. You should probably get going." The flight attendant looked ready to pounce, but Seth quickly stepped between them with a strained smile. "Hey, hold on. Get your minds out of the gutter, ladies. What is wrong with you two?" He looked at Ava. "You've got it all wrong. She's a roommate, Ava, just like you." Ava's big eyes blinked a few times. The flight attendant just snorted. crossing her arms over her chest. "Sorry, my bad," Ava said with a sheepish grin. But the flight attendant wasn't letting it go that easily, her voice pure sarcasm. "You honestly think he could afford me?" Seth was speechless. The woman was beautiful, but she was a complete airhead. He cleared his throat, deciding to push his luck. "Okay, just hypothetically, if you were, what would you charge?" A high heel came flying straight at his head. "I'm going to..." The flight attendant brandished the high heel in her hand, her polished composure cracking as she let the curses fly. "I'm not even done with you, and now you're trying to kick me out? I get almost no time off from flying. I finally come home for a few days to catch up on sleep, and my keys don't work. Then the building manager shows up with a wad of cash, telling me someone bought the rights to the entire floor. It was you! I ought to smack you with this whole stack of bills." Seth offered a wry smile. "Look, I'm sorry. I just like my privacy. Management told me you weren't hurting for cash, so finding another condo like this one should be easy enough, right? Or just get a hotel. Yes, I bought the floor. No, I don't know you. And as you can see, the 4 apartments that were here are now one giant space. We can't exactly be roommates." Seth held out the stack of cash he'd scooped off the floor yesterday. "Here's the money from management for breaking the lease. See, I picked it all up for you, every last dollar." The flight attendant's red lips formed a pout. She seemed a little surprised he'd actually bothered to gather the money she'd thrown. Her expression softened as she glanced at Ava. "Is she living with you, too?" Seth nodded. She couldn't find a place on short notice, and she agreed to help with chores. I told her she could stay for a bit. "Well, in that case, I don't want to move out either," the flight attendant declared. "With her around, I'll feel a lot safer," Seth said, his reluctance obvious. "It's my lease, and I don't want roommates." The flight attendant pointed a finger at Ava. "But you're living with her, so why not me? I have a month off, and I'm not wasting it apartment hunting. I'm staying here for the month." "You could just go to a hotel," Seth countered. She glared back. "I'm picky about my beds, okay?" Just then, Seth's phone buzzed again. He shot a look at the screen and immediately turned to go. "We'll talk when I get back." The constant calls were driving him crazy. After Seth left, the flight attendant smiled and extended a hand to Ava. "I'm Clara." Ava felt a pang of guilt for her snap judgment and shook her hand. "Ava, I think we should team up. So, what's the deal with this guy? You've got guts, I'll give you that, agreeing to live with him." Ava said coolly, "I'm a cop. What's there to be afraid of? Honey, if I were a guy and you had a face like that, I'd still try my luck, even if you were the Queen of England." "He's not a bad guy," Ava said. "At least not compared to the ones who are all talk. Besides, he doesn't seem interested in me. That's just an act." Clara pouted, looking as if she could see through every man on the planet. "I know the face they show the world, and I know what's ticking underneath. Nothing gets past me." Ava sat down, drawn into the conversation. "So, you're really planning on staying?" Clara Pierce nodded. "I've lived here for 3 years. I'm particular about my bed. I just can't get a good night's sleep anywhere else. I refuse to have my vacation ruined by insomnia." Meanwhile, the police station was pure chaos. Lawyers, dispatched by the families of the rich kids, were swarming the place. The director had locked himself in his office, praying the door and his eardrums would hold out until Seth Kramer returned. He'd already gotten a call from his superiors. The situation wasn't a full-blown catastrophe, but it was quite close. If the department couldn't produce a solid explanation, someone would have to take the fall. A suspension for a few months to appease the powerful families breathing down their necks. So far, no one volunteered. Since Kramer had taken the cell keys, the department had to call a welder to cut the lock. But even after the stainless steel door was forced open, the rich kids inside had apparently made a pact. They sat tight, refusing to budge, no matter how crowded it was. Shane, their ringleader, motioned for his lawyer to lean in. After a whispered exchange, the lawyer nodded, then stepped forward and announced to the officers, "My client has been egregiously mistreated. If you cannot provide a reasonable explanation for his detainment, we will see you in court. Why would you put a rookie on the night shift? Do you have any idea what will happen if all these kids sue us? This is on you for letting Kramer off the leash. You get out there and calm them down. Director, what good would that do? They're obviously gunning for Seth. Look at them, all huddled up with their legal eagles. When Seth Kramer finally walked in, nearly every officer in the room turned to look at him. The moment Seth appeared, the kids in the cell shot to their feet, pointing and shouting, "That's the guy, that's him!" Seth pushed through the circle of lawyers, walked straight to the cell, and smirked at the kids inside. "So, you don't want to leave?" Shane sneered, clearly not afraid to escalate things. "What? So cops can just arrest people and beat them up whenever they want?" he yelled. Seth replied calmly, "I didn't beat anyone up. Those are resisting arrest injuries. You have only yourselves to blame." One of the lawyers stepped forward. "And on what grounds did you arrest my client? Public disturbance, resisting arrest, and assaulting an officer. In that moment, I would have been within my rights to use lethal force." The lawyer replied smoothly, "That's your version of events. It's funny, it sounds completely different from what our clients told us." Seth shot back, "My partners on the scene last night can corroborate my statement." Shane scoffed. "You just said they're your partners. Why should anyone believe them? For all we know, you're all just covering for each other. We're the ones who got arrested and beaten up. Our story makes a lot more sense. You don't get to be judge and jury here. We have serious doubts about your fitness to enforce the law."
Wait, that's not the end. You've just had a free taste. Now get the full story on the Pocket FM app, link in description. Check out our next video and playlist, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.